talk today is reflections. There's a story from a book called Heart of the Enlightened by a gentleman named Anthony DeMeo. And he says, a mouse was in constant distress because of fear of the cat. So the mouse went to a magician, and this magician took pity on it and turned it into a cat. So now this mouse was a cat. But then it became afraid of the dog. The magician went, all right. It became a dog. But now the dog was afraid of the panther. Oh, no. And so the magician was like, okay. Became a panther. But then the panther came back to the magician and says, I'm afraid of a human. And the frustrated magician just turned it back into the mouse. And said, there's nothing I can do for you if you can't step away from having the heart of a mouse. And I think that happens to a lot of us in a lot of ways. Because where our heart goes, our mind and our feet usually goes, because experiences are a reflection of what we feel and know in what I call the divine matrix, but mostly I'm talking about our heart. So I want to put it out there, what is your reflection? In the songs, you talked about the reflection, and am I reflecting out into the world who I really am? And I also want to talk about what is our reflection as a people, as human beings on this planet that we're on. Does it reflect the common good? Now, I want to talk about a few things that have been throughout the centuries that are for the common good. In fact, they all happen today or tomorrow. All these things happened in history today or tomorrow. In 1455, Johannes Gutenberg, printed his first Bible. This very day in 1455, that was for the common good. Because before that, other than the written word meaning handwritten, they couldn't mass produce anything. And what a change that made in the world when they could mass produce literature, etc. In 1896, the Tootsie Roll was introduced by a gentleman named Leo Hirschfeld, and fortunately also not too long before that, in 1873, toothpaste became a mass-produced product so that we could have the common good of the Tootsie Roll without ruining too much of our teeth. In 1954, the first injections of the Salk polio vaccine occurred at Arsenal Elementary School in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. That was for the common good. We pretty much eradicated polio. There's a few outbreaks here and there, but basically it is gone because of this vaccine and the other one, the other polio vaccine. In February 24th, 1983, that was tomorrow in 1983, Special Congressional Commission that was put together released a report condemning the World War II Japanese internment. Now that was like 40 years late, but it did show up for the common good. We finally got together and said, you know what, we made a big friggin' mistake. That was bad, and we're sorry, and we officially apologize. And I have read that this week or very soon in California, it as a state is going to forgive its part in it, because there were many of those internment camps here in California. In 1979, in Stamford, Texas, I know you've all been there, the highest price ever paid for a pig was made. That was $42,500. The pig's name was Glacier. I'm not sure if it was for the common good, but it was for the common breakfast. And then in 1924, the last one I want to talk about, pacifist and spiritual leader Mahatma Gandhi was released from jail tomorrow in 1924, who of course dedicated his life for the common good. And in fact, if you didn't know it, we are in the what they call the season of nonviolence. It started in January. It's 64 days commemorating the work of mostly Gandhi and Dr. Martin Luther King. It is a season of recognition and celebration of their life and their work. Of course, we don't want nonviolence to be seasonal. We'd like that to be all year round. Seeking the common good is a habit of the heart. I asked a rabbi once, why does the Torah tell us to place the words upon our hearts? And that's in many of the prayers in the Jewish religion. You know, we place these words upon our hearts. Why does it not tell us to put these words into our hearts? You know, they're holy words, they're sacred words. Why are we not putting them into our hearts? And the Rebbe answered, it is because as we are, our hearts are closed. And we cannot place the holy words in our hearts. So we place them on top of our hearts until our hearts open, until our hearts break open and allow those words to fall in. And when I was thinking about that story, I thought, well, wait a minute. We're always, no, we're not. We're not always having our hearts open to do this. Sometimes it's closed for whatever reason. Not a judgment. Happens to me too. Sometimes it's closed. So these words, it's like when I talk about treatments that I've started and then I have to stop and start over because I don't believe myself. I don't believe what I'm saying to myself. I don't feel the vibration that I should feel, that it's going out to the law, to the universe. Because I need to stop and open my heart. Because many times when I've gone into prayer, it's because my heart's closed and I want to open it to whatever it is I'm busting through. Opening the heart to new words, new habits, new insights must be developed. We have to develop that. We have to be purposeful about that. And when we have to remember that not only are we reflecting our own selves into our experiences from that open heart, from that insight that we receive, but we are too doing that for the common good. Too many times and this is not really a fault, so much as the way life surrounds us. We get to the point when we're in our prayer, in our treatment, in our meditation, we're thinking more about what's going on with me. Maybe what's going on with my family, and especially those very close to you. But what about the common good? What about this country? This is a country that was created for the common good. The preamble of the Constitution is what? We, the people. Everyone. We, the people. Now, even as they came up with these high ideals, the we, the people, this country wasn't living that high ideal, and it's still working on living that high ideal, but that ideal is there for the common good. The motto for the United States, what's it say on our paper money? E pluribus unum, out of many, one. That's what this philosophy is about, out of many, one. Out of the one, many ones. Actually, is better said. So let's talk a little bit about creating this habit of the heart, because it is a habit. Anything that's going on in our belief system, in our thoughts and feelings, most of those are coming from some habits of thought, some habits of belief. Beliefs in themselves are a habit that we hold on to. And how we perceive life is a habit that we've decided upon or that we have accepted somehow. So the word heart comes from the Latin word cor, C-O-R. Talking about the core. It's the core of the whole system. It's the core of the whole mind, body, and spirit. It is actually if not one of the first things that grows when you're in vitro is the heart. We start from the heart and go out. The heart pumps more than blood, of course. I've talked about this before. It also pumps hormones into our system, and those hormones regulate our bodily functions all over our body, not just what's going on here in our heart, including our brain. There's an electromagnetic field, similar to the brain. The brain is a bioelectrical organ, but surrounding us is an electromagnetic field that envelops our body and has been proven, because they can connect us to various machines, that it has proven to influence the behavior of our DNA cells. They say your life is not based on your DNA. I know they talk about DNA and RNA as, the essence of what's going in our body. But, Bruce Lipton and his people have proven that you can change that. You can move that with your, I almost said it, with your mind. You can move that with your mind. You can move that with your consciousness. You can change what's going on in your cells with your consciousness. The heart has an intelligence. There are neurotransmitters and neurons and proteins and things going on in your heart, in this electromagnetic field, that can change cells, that can change what's going on in your brain. It's where we integrate what we know with what's happening in our gut. It's kind of how it all ends up here. The brain and the gut and the intuition and the imagination, they gather here in the heart. The Dalai Lama Center for Peace and Understanding said, heart-mind well-being refers to creating a balance between educating the mind and educating the heart. Now, core is also a Latin root for the word courage. Courage that Reverend Gary talked about. Courage. This gentleman named Parker Palmer, he said, when all that we know of self and world comes together in the center place called the heart, we are more likely to find the courage to act humanely on what we know. So it comes from the heart. It comes from that feeling, that love, not necessarily the romantic love, but the love of life, and the love of life for us all, the common good. Our heart is a reflection of our beliefs into experience, and our experiences are a mirror from our heart. Now, I know it gets difficult out there. I read something that in 1963, over 70% of Americans trusted the government to do the right thing. You know what that is now? And this was actually 2 years ago, this poll was taken. 16%. Trust for corporations in the late 70s was about 32%. By 2016, only 18%. And it goes on and on. Newspapers, and there's very few newspapers nowadays, but so let's add into our news system completely online, on cable as well as newspapers. Trust went from 51% down to 20%. 20% of people believe what they read or watch or listen to that has to do with news. Wow. Sad. Now, seeing this for years, we start to feel hopeless. And I get it, I've felt that. We feel out of control, we become apathetic. Who hasn't become apathetic in the last few years now and again? Our heart starts to close, mostly because we're trying to protect ourselves from pain. I find myself, when I hear things going on that are not for the common good, I don't get angry as much as sad. I eventually get a little angry, depending. But most of the time, I get sad more than angry about it. Jung said that everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. So everything that we're seeing happening, not only with people that we are having a close relationship with at work or at home, etc., or even on the street, is it's not just that, it's what's going on in the world, in the common good. In the end, the face we turn toward ourselves is the face we will turn toward the outer world. So our consciousness, not only as individuals, but as a bunch of individuals together, is what starts showing up out there in the world. So what do? what can we do? Now, let me go through these 5 habits that this Parker Palmer guy wrote about. Because I could just stand here and say, well, change your consciousness, see ya, and that's it. But let's go through these 5 things. He is the founder and senior partner for the Center for Courage and Renewal. He says, 1, an understanding that we're all in this together. So like I said, everything that's going on in the common good is a reflection of our consciousness as a people. And if we don't like it, then we need to figure out, as well as what we can do individually in mind and consciousness and heart, but what we can do as a community. This community, the greater community of this city, state, country, and so on. Number 2, an appreciation of the values of otherness. Now, I don't think the people here or the people that would be watching us online get into that idea of otherness, because in our philosophy we don't believe in an otherness, because we believe we're all one. We all come from the divine. We all come from the same creative energy. So there is no otherness. It's a namaste. We believe in that whole namaste, that the divine in me sees the divine in you, that whole idea that whoever is speaking to me, even if it's somebody that is not speaking nice words, that's God speaking to me. So what do I get out of this? A, probably walk away is the first thing. But 2, why is that showing up in my life? Is there something I need to learn here? Because there's no otherness. There's only the divine expressing itself in this way. Even with the junk going on in this country and in this world, it's the divine. It's the universe. It's the law expressing itself, bringing into what's happening in the world a reflection of the consciousness of all of us as a people. Ralph Waldo Emerson said the measure of mental health is the disposition to find good everywhere. Number 3, an ability to hold tension in life-giving ways. Well, we know life's not going to be perfect. I know I'm supposed to say life is perfect. But there's a lot of imperfections going on, yes? Are we going to lie and say, yeah, I know the whole, turn away from the condition, turn away. That doesn't mean you ignore it. That means you know that you can overwhelm it, you can overpower it because of this and this. So what we do with these tensions that come from the imperfection, not only in our lives, but in the lives of the common, is what's important. What we do with it. What we do with that sadness, that anger, that dismay, that apathy even. What do we do with that apathy? What are we doing with it in consciousness, as well as in our time, talent, and treasure? Number 4, a sense of personal voice and agency. What we put into the race consciousness via our opinions, our judgments, what we say out there, what we write out there, affects the culture and our community and the world. I'm very careful what I write on everything that goes public. I sometimes want so much to make a comment on my Twitter feed, and I have a couple of them because I have my personal New Thought Guide Twitter feed, and then I have the center's Twitter feed, and so many times I just want to make comment on what's going on, and I stop myself because a lot of times it's that venting thing. And I don't want to use that social media to vent. For many reasons. A, it usually comes from some emotion versus intellect and logic about it. And what am I going to do? And I'm not disparaging anybody who uses social media to vent, because some people need that. Some people require that in their lives. And I read some of those now and again. But I don't feel like that's my job in some ways, especially as a thought leader, to voice my opinion, but to help us steer towards a consciousness of love and peace and grace in our world. Number 5, a capacity to create community. Anonymous said, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. We have to create a sense of community, not only here, but in our city and our country. Muhammad said a person's true wealth is the good he or she does in the world. What are we doing in the world? You know, I'm not going to stand here and persuade you to go out and take action as far as, you know, join a political group or join any sort of group or get out there and protest. Those are all wonderful things, or give money here and there. Those are all wonderful things, but you know where it starts here? It starts here in our consciousness, in our lives, in our bodies, in our minds. Helen Keller said, believe when you are most unhappy that there is something for you to do in the world. So long as you can sweeten another's pain, life is not in vain. So the common good could be just for the person that you know is sad about something, the person that you put in your heart that needs some healing. I have found that when I am depressed, when I step away from whatever that is that has shown up to equal that kind of sadness, and do something for somebody else, it dissipates to the point that now I can deal with it. Because many times things, you know, build up, or even something that just shows up, it feels overwhelming, and you could just sit there and, you know, be a whirling dervish of being overwhelmed by whatever it is has caused you this sadness or depression. And I'm not talking about the kind of depression that is medical and your chemicals are constantly doing that because there's something that needs to be adjusted, that your brain is chemically doing something over and over. I'm talking about the ones that just kind of show up for us. That's not consistent. That's not chronic. Community and collaboration. I'm not talking about doing that versus not taking care of ourselves. I want to make sure I tell you that. I'm not saying, you know, don't not be selfish. Go ahead and be selfish, but let's expand ourselves in this selfishness of the common good. There's some good selfishness too. Selfishness is not all about us. Norman Vincent Peale said somehow the act of self-giving is a personal power-releasing factor. That goes on with this story of if you feel depressed or sad about something and it's starting to overwhelm you, get out there and go help somebody else, because that's power-releasing. There's a Chinese proverb that says, thousands of candles can be lighted from a single candle, and the life of the candle will never be shortened. Happiness never ceases by being shared. Sharing our consciousness for the common good. Sharing our life for the common good. I want to end with this. Now, you've probably seen the Hanukkah menorah, the candelabra that they use for the Hanukkah celebration. And in the center usually is kind of a taller, or it's made to be taller candle, and that is called the shamash. It is the helper attendant candle, and that it's there in case one of the other candles burns out, then you can relight it with that candle. And miraculously, that shamash never blows out unless you physically do that. So that's what it's there for. It's there to light the other candles, and if one of the candles blows out accidentally, it's there to relight it. It is the helper, the attendant candle. So I want to ask all of us to be a shamash in our world, and especially in our country. So much chaos seems to be going on. I see things starting to get better in some areas, to be more realized in some areas, and it's a wake-up call, really. You know, it's not a slap on the hand by the universe. We don't believe in that. It's a wake-up call. It's a wake-up call for us to have consciousness about a greater country and a greater world where integrity is important, where kindness is important, where love is important. So all of us need to be a shamash ready to relight that peace and prosperity and love and joy and grace. And to do it with the heart of a lion, not the heart of a mouse. To do it purposefully, on command, declare, be attendant for each other and for the common good. In you, there's a heart that must be free to fly, as the song says. In you, there must be a heart that must be free to fly. I ask you to break open your heart and let the sacred words of not only this philosophy, but all philosophies that deal with love and kindness and integrity and peace and understanding and grace, let their heart break open and let those words drop in, like the Rebbe told me. And then we can release it through our consciousness, through our action, through our time, talent, and treasure. We can release it and allow us to shine longer, steadier, and with love. Thank you so much. Namaste.